Today in Flex in the City, we talk to Alan Chalmers, former publisher, Funds Europe magazine. He entertains 6 leaders from financial services for dinner. Who are they? All that happening right now in Flex and the City.
Hello, everybody. This is Rachel Treese for Flex and the City, and I am absolutely thrilled to have a very good friend, somebody who is well known in the financial services industry in Europe, and that is Mr. Alan Chalmers, who is, in fact, the former publisher of Funds Europe, amongst many other things. Alan, great to have you on. I met you 10, 12 years ago, walking around London with my husband, I believe.
Both of us were walking around London. We weren't down and out.
Weren't down and out. Absolutely. Pleasure to have you on. So,
Thank you.
Alan, for our listeners, people know you very well, one of the kindest people in the industry. I'm sure everybody would love to know a little bit about how you got to be doing what you're doing today. And I know from pre-conversation, you're busier than ever, even now. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
I trained as a chartered accountant in Edinburgh for 10 years. And that was a great basis for learning about business. I then moved to London, joined an engineering implantation business, another engineering business, got involved in doing merger and acquisition work and the likes, which is very good because it gives you a very good general business understanding and also a good view of the world because it was international, which was great. I did stuff in the States and stuff in Indonesia and in Africa. I then got involved in my very early 40s, I think, restructuring a publishing company that had financial issues. We restructured it. That got me into publishing, which then included financial publishing, drinks publishing, golf. And I then ultimately, in 2007, bought over Funds Europe with a colleague at the time, which was a publication that we'd launched from scratch. So as ever in life, you start off in one direction and go in lots of other directions, but all of it fun, all of it interesting, some success, some dismal failure as well. So I was
going to say, what did you learn about as a leader leading Funds Europe?
I learned a lot, but you learn a lot from other people in the industry as well, in the financial services industry. I mean, we've had some fantastic people in the industry, and I'll give some illustrations. I was always impressed. I've seen Yves Perrier of Amundi for over 10 years, nearly 15 years, and I've always been impressed with his honesty, his openness, and the fact that his principles were embedded in the business.
Right.
Similarly, I've always been impressed with the likes of Martin Gilbert, who's shown great tenacity and also a lot of wisdom over 40 years of business. But there's also people like Anne Richards, who was the CIO at Aberdeen and is now at Fidelity. I think God just endowed her with the most common sense in any person I've ever come across. And similarly, the likes of Elizabeth Corley, who is one of the classiest managers I've ever come across, but with great perception and fantastic brain power. So you pick up all of their traits and help consolidate them. And these are the people that help drive you forward and drive the industry forward.
Absolutely. And so financial services as an industry right now, what skills do you think are needed by the leaders in the industry?
I think the skills are changing in that, if I'm being honest, I was the old style leader where you stuck on your armor, you got on the horse, you went to the front to the troops, and you charged. I think it's much more about communicating, about being able to empathize and understand where the members of your team are coming from so that you can you can put management into context. But I also think it's about being truthful and honest with yourself and with your staff. These days, I don't think leaders have to have all the answers, but they have to have an honest and open relationship with the people that work for them, because these days, employees have to follow you, and it's not just financial incentives that make them follow you these days. And particularly as you get into younger people in companies, they are wanting more than just financial reward. That doesn't mean they don't want financial reward, but it's much more of a balanced scenario, I would say.
And do you think, Alan, because you've worked in publishing for many years, is the industry doing enough to attract new generations to the industry?
I don't think it is, if I'm being honest. I mean, the difficulty, you've just got to look at the new financial services industries, such as Revolut and the likes, where the culture is just completely different to some of the older, more traditional industries. I think it's also going to depend upon how people start saving and how younger people relate to money going forward, and the provision for their retirement, their savings, their families. So I think the industry needs to change to understand younger people, their needs and their wishes, very much so. And I think, I'm going to say something slightly strange, we need to get back to the culture of farming rather than hunting, in that in financial services, somebody explained to me this about Switzerland, that the Swiss are essentially farmers, and financial services has, I think, developed too much of an investment bank outlook, which is much more about hunting, killing, and bringing back, rather than asset management and wealth management, which is much more about growing, developing, and harvesting. And so I think we've got to get back in financial services to getting that message. It's not always about top performers. It's not always about selling out of this and buying this. It's about developing, growing, and seeing harvests. And that, I think, is where people don't relate to our industry at present, particularly in younger generations.
So if you, Alan, were the leader of the whole of the financial services industry, and you were asking a really powerful coaching question to those leaders in the industry, what's the question you'd ask them?
I think I would ask, how do you get over the message that greed is not always good? It's because I think that's focused a lot of savers and the likes. And you see this in cryptocurrency at present, where people are trading because it's fear of missing out, FOMO. And in all honesty, we've got away from the basic, which was compounding, and compound interest saw things grow over time. And people don't appreciate time frames now. They want instant results, instant gratification. So I think I would ask people to stand back, look in perspective, because when you look at your savings in perspective, you see they've actually grown significantly over time. And that's the message that we need to get over. It's about providing, it's not about quick gains. Absolutely. Sorry if that's a bit boring, but
no, absolutely not. Because there was somebody who came to work for our organisation, had a first-class honours degree from Glasgow University, and I said, "Aren't you interested in the financial services industry?" Absolutely not, he said. No. Too boring. And yet he's busy doing crypto at night. Yeah. So I think that's the challenge that we're dealing with, isn't it, Alan? So
yeah, it's the difficulty in some people's views, financial services is bad because it is about quick gain. But it's like dealing at all extremes. I think extreme is bad, but doing nothing is also bad as well. The concept, I also think of financial services, not so much in asset management, but general financial services, we've become too credit dependent. We want things now. We will borrow money to get them now. Whereas if you go back generations, you saved up for things to get them. And so therefore, this instant availability has tended to come into the financial services industry. And that takes away that feeling that you need to put money aside for a rainy day. I mean, it really is interesting in the COVID crisis how it was a real wake-up call to a lot of families, and they started paying down credit card debt and all of these things over the COVID times, because all of a sudden, when the music slowed down, they realized what was actually eating the income that they were generating. And so you need to get back to some of that basics about providing for the future. And that also plays into the ESG side about looking after the environment and taking the longer term view, not the short term view.
Absolutely. So, Alan, you finished working with Funds Europe as the publisher now, but we just had a chat about your agenda, and you're involved in so many things. So what's your purpose? What motivates you, Alan?
I enjoy encouraging people. I enjoy creativity. I particularly like seeing younger people develop and grow. I mean, I've no children. And so maybe leaving your mark on the earth is through the impression that you can leave on other human beings, and so therefore I do like to see people encouraged to develop, to try things. With many people that have worked for me, I've encouraged them to develop. When they've decided to leave, I've been supportive and encouraged them to leave, because people need to develop, to push barriers, to see the world out there. I grew up and in Scotland in the 70s, and Scotland was relatively poor. Its greatest export was people, quite frankly, coming out into the world, coming out into England, coming out elsewhere in the world. And I think that was amazing, because I'm a child of education for all and coming out to the world and seeing that develop. And that really, with hindsight, was a golden time, quite frankly. I worked at Deloitte, which then became part of PwC, and there were three partners that I worked for there: Jack Shaw, or Sir John Shaw as he became, Jeremy Burnett and Scott Veitch. And they were very much into encouraging youngsters, seeing them train, developing them. And I probably didn't appreciate the role they had in helping to create me, in helping to encourage me, as long as a host of other people that trained there. And it's only with age and hindsight you see the impact they've had. Sadly, they're all dead. Two of them only died last year. And if I'm being honest, I maybe slightly regret I never said thank you for what they did. It was a company. It was all part of developing their company, but it was a great way of encouraging and develop human beings to reach their potential.
Absolutely. It's all about encouraging these human beings and education, isn't it? And sleeping at night, Alan, is there anything that prevents you from sleeping at night?
two things that stop me sleeping at night: politicians, and it could be Boris or Keir Starmer or any others, and stupid people. Now, you may actually say that, no, politicians are sometimes just a subset of stupid people, but it always amazes me the number of people that don't see the bigger picture in life, and that really annoys me. People that cannot see where we're going, people that get stuck in their little bit without seeing the opportunity. I mean, I'm lucky. I've had lots of opportunities given to me by people with vision that would take a risk. And so, I really would like to see more people do that and take a little bit of a risk going forward.
And what are the words of wisdom you would offer to any, maybe young financial services leader? What are the words of wisdom you'd offer them?
Years ago, we interviewed Martin Gilbert, and this was just at the time of the financial crisis, 2008. And Martin, in fairness, had been through a big issue with the split capital trusts issue in 2002 with various inquiries and things like that. And we asked him, what advice would you give? And he said, when you've got problems in life, just put your head down, come in every day and do the best you can, because that's all that can be asked of you. And we then went through various crises. I myself, business-wise, have been through various crises. And that's probably the best advice that I've received and can offer somebody else, that just do the best you can. That's all that anyone can ever ask of you. And if you've done the best you can and you failed, well, there was nothing more to be done. But believe in yourself, do the best you can, put your head down and go forward.
Absolutely. And Alan, outside of financial services and the working world, what is it you love to do? I do know that wine is on that list.
I love wine, I love cooking, and I love food. You don't get to be my weight without liking all of these things. I think I enjoy cooking. I enjoy entertaining people. I mean, the thing I get the most pleasure out of is cooking something from scratch for people that I want to be with, and just sharing that experience and really putting on a good meal for them, because I find cooking is the opposite of work, and it's creative. You're doing it, and it gives a lot of personal reward. And I like sharing things with people, and I like interacting with people. So that brings all of these things together. And if you have a nice glass of wine, well, that just finishes it off.
Absolutely. So I've got two questions for you, Alan. You've got a dinner party at home,
Yeah.
and you can invite 6 financial services leaders to that dinner party, or 6 leaders. Who would they be?
That's very interesting. Who would I invite? Well, I've got to go back to, I like Yves Perrier, I like Martin Gilbert, I like Anne Richards, and I like Elizabeth Corley. I think they're very good. I also like Massimo Tosato, ex of Schroeder's, because he's interesting. He's got a vineyard, he grows olive oil and all of these things. And I would also invite Todd Ruppert, who's the ex-president of T. Rowe Price. And I love Todd because, compared to me, Todd's stinking rich. But I've seen him with people, and whoever's with him, be it the driver of his car, or be it the doorman of the hotel, or be it Massimo Tosato, for the 10 minutes they're in front of Todd, that person is the most special person in Todd's life. And I think that's a lovely quality when you're dealing with people, because so often we see senior people in the industry, they don't often have airs and graces, but the people around them have enough airs and graces for them normally. And so, I think that dinner party would go with a swing, quite frankly. Although I hate to think what the bill would be like for the wine. That's my
that was going to be my second question. What is the wine or champagne you'd serve them?
Well, I would probably serve a top-end South African red. The reason being, I think value-wise, the quality that you get out of South Africa on some of the top-end wines are just amazing. I mean, yeah, we all know the Bordeaux growths and things like that, and they're lovely. But, at the end of the day, I'm Scottish. I want quality and value. I don't just want to throw money at it.
Fantastic answer from somebody who used to publish Funds Europe. Alan Chalmers, I just want to acknowledge you. You are kind, you are encouraging, you are inspiring, and you leave an incredible impression on human beings. Thank you so much for joining us today on Flex in the City.
Rachel, thank you. Look in the mirror yourself. Trust me. Thank you.
You just listened to Flex in the City. Catch us on our next episode.